between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to the VRRC for the final week of racing in the VRRC's one-make Civic Cup, which has kept us entertained for the last month and a bit with 10 fantastically entertaining, eventful, dramatic races. And as often seems to be the case here on the VRRC, the championship battle all boils down to the final two 20-minute races coming to you tonight from the Donington Park circuit. Andy McEwen up here in the commentary box. Jack Oliphant back alongside me. And Jack, always at this point of the season, I like to look back and reflect on everything that we've seen. And it has been a really, really enjoyable series. Certainly, I've enjoyed the racing. It's been great to see the variety of drivers that we've seen up there fighting at the front, and I cannot think of a better circuit at which to conclude it all.
Absolutely not. No, Donington Park is a bit of me, as you know, Andy. It's my favourite track on the calendar, on most calendars, to be honest, and particularly this one. I mean, obviously, you said eventful in that build-up. Well, Croft was certainly eventful. I think we just put a pin on it and move on. Silverstone, I wasn't here for, but apparently it was fantastic. Alton Park and Brandtach were sensational racing, and side-by-side, really clean moves all the way up and down the field as well. We really loved that. And Thruxton gave us exactly what we were expecting, which is a little bit of carnage, but plenty of overtaking opportunities, especially into that last chicane. So it all culminizes down into Donington. And like you said, we got a nice, close championship battle on our hands.
Yeah, certainly the shorter of the two Donington layouts in use tonight, the Donington National, which is my personal favourite. I think it's got a really nice flow to it and generates some of the best racing you'll see anywhere in the UK, and that always seems to translate over into the sim as well. A completely different challenge from the one that we faced a week ago, the tight, narrow, very bumpy Croft circuit, and it was actually Max Bird who came out of that night with the strongest performance. He was the only driver to appear on the podium in both races. Didn't win a race, he was third in race one, second in race 2, but that was the best average score, and it moved him into second place in the championship. Elliot Dalton-Ayres was the second highest placed driver, whilst Eric Axelsen had one of his best nights of the season. In fact, that was, I think, his highest scoring night of the season so far. Didn't actually get a podium finish, but a 4th and a 6th was a really consistent night for him. Max Bird getting the driver of the round for his excellent driving, in particular in race 2, coming through from towards the back of the field to finish second place in the race. Now, nowhere on that graphic do you see the name Scott Buckner. You really should expect to see him there, because Scott is the championship leader coming into this final round, and actually almost has it wrapped up. We think that as long as he has a safe and sensible run with no penalties, no disqualifications, and gets to the end of race 1, he should pretty much have done enough to wrap up the championship. But Croft did not quite go his way, did it, Jack?
It absolutely didn't, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's a pretty good point at which he can go into Donington with a little bit of confidence. He's still got that nice buffer, mainly because I believe Max Edmondson ended up with a penalty, obviously going into Croft as he's spawning back to pit, so that's actually demoted him down into 3rd. Max Bird up to 2nd, so all of a sudden we're looking at the battle for 2nd place, and you can't really discount Joel Lask and Elliot Dalton-Ayres, especially Elliot Dalton-Ayres. 2nd at Croft overall, showed a little bit of a turn of pace, and if you can carry that over to tonight, then you can start seeing him towards the top 3, I would say. We're going to have a look quickly at the prizes in a minute, but again, just to reiterate, there's pretty much battles from 2nd all the way down, I would say, even to Eric Axelsen in 6th place. A couple of drivers that we would definitely say are out of position. Nicky Taylor in the HFT racing car, currently in 13th place with 83 points. He's not here tonight. He only partook in 3 evenings, I believe, or potentially 4. So that's why he's out of position. But the likes of Chris Shepherd, again, further down than we're expecting, and Jordan Brennan, unfortunately, who hasn't been here with us for the entire series. Carl Felvis in 9th place. Again, he'll be hoping just to get this series out of the way and move on, I'm sure.
Yes, although has actually been finding a bit more pace of late, so he'll be hoping to end it on a high, that's for sure. Now, should any of these drivers manage to lock in a top 5 championship position come the end of the season, which is indeed at the end of tonight's 2 races, then these are the fabulous prizes up grabs. Our champion will receive the wonderful AGON 34-inch curved gaming display. Looks like that's going to go the way of Scott Buckner, but he still has a little bit of work to do to wrap that up. Second place, which is where things really start to get tight. Remember, just 5 points between the 2nd and 3rd place drivers, but quite a difference in the prize. The Riggs SimRace 3 is up for grabs for the driver 2nd in the championship. That really high-quality professional sim rig. 3rd place, still a good prize, don't get me wrong. 2 tickets to a round of the TCR UK Championship this season, and that is going to be a very hotly contested battle between 2nd and 3rd in the points. 4th place receives 2 hours of online driver coaching, and 5th place is the Valeting bucket from PowerMax, who also supply the Valeting kit to our driver of the round, as voted by myself and Jack at the end of the night. So that's what's up for grabs championship-wise, prize-wise, come the end of tonight's 2 races for the top 5 drivers in the points. Let's, though, take a closer look, shall we, at the track on which they're going to do battle, the high-speed and flowing Donington Park National Circuit.
So here we are, the last chicane, across the line for the last round of the Maximum Networks Civic Cup powered by VRRC. So we're on track with other cars. It just distracts me ever so slightly, into turn 1. Just missing that apex, but still carry good speed. Ran it out nice and wide and carry good speed all the way down through Craner curves here. Important as is for the rest of the track that we get a lot of the work done early in the corner. So you can see, get as far left as early as possible on the way to Old Hairpin, early on the brakes, and then feed the throttle in to balance the car. If you can get all that work done nice and early, it just carries the flow and all the momentum. Same again here in the McLeans. You can see I follow the corner round, meaning I'm nice and straight, if not anything a little bit right, all the way in the brakes, and it allows us to carry the speed all the way through the corner. Now into Coppice, for me the most difficult corner, down to third, nice and early, feed it in on the throttle. You see I got a little bit of a bounce, so actually taking a little bit more curb there would have been optimal, but still didn't lose too much speed there. Now all the way down Starkey straight towards the final chicane. This is always a case of how late you dare on the brakes, but make sure you can get off the brake as you start to turn in to balance the car and get on the throttle on the way out. And there is a lap of Donington Park. Make sure you tune in on Wednesday night on VRRC's YouTube, and make sure you give this video a like and subscribe.
So the national layout at Donington Park, a fitting host venue for our final two races of the season, and as Jack was saying, a real favourite of both mine and Jack's, and I think that kind of speaks to why this circuit is so great. Jack, as a racing driver, I'm not going to call you an ex-racing driver, I still hold out hope we'll see you back out on track again at some point, but certainly someone with real-world racing experience, and then myself as a fan of the sport. It caters for both. The drivers enjoy driving it, and people like me enjoy the kind of racing that it produces.
Yeah, it's brilliant, to be honest, when you go down Craner curves and you hook up old hairpin as well with the braking zone, especially if you've got a full manual car, H-pattern gearbox. It's really very enjoyable. You just heel and toe, in the Ginetta G40 anyway, you're in fourth gear, you heel and toe it down to third, hear the engine rev the nuts off it, and then just sling it in. It's such a satisfying corner, as most start here at Donington, just to get right. As soon as you hit the sweet spot, there is nothing like it. Going over McLean's and Coppice as well. I mean, it's bumpy there that you saw with Carl Felvers, but you're sort of looking for a blind apex. So you're almost chucking it in and hoping that you're along the right sort of area of the circuit. And again, just so satisfying when you get it right, to be honest. So it's a big favourite. Even if there's not, I mean, it's not an overly complicated circuit. It's not like a Brands Hatch GP or anything like that, but it is just one that really does bring a smile to your face when you're driving around it. And one driver who's probably got a big smile on his face at the moment is a driver we haven't mentioned that much, actually, but it's Joel Lask in pole position at the moment, only by 0.004 of a second, but they all matter. Max Bird currently ahead of championship rival Scott Bugner as well, currently in third. But look at the times. People have clearly been practicing, Andy, because look, they're separated by about 0.2 of a second, the top six.
Well, in the top five by less than a tenth. That is remarkably tight there. 75 1,000ths between Joel Lask on provisional pole and Kyle Felvers in fifth. I mean, that's a story in and of itself, isn't it? Kyle Felvers qualifying at the moment in fifth position. That would be a fantastic way for him to round out his championship campaign. There's Andy Dorman. Andy Dorman was the man to beat in qualifying on the Silverstone National Circuit. He was one of only three drivers, actually, so far, three different drivers who have set pole positions. Remember, Max Edmondson was the qualifying king for the first half of the season, setting pole in rounds 1, 2 and 3. Then Dorman at Silverstone. Last time at Croft it was Elliot Dalton Ayres. Given how we've seen relatively few drivers contending for pole positions, the fact that we've still managed to get 7 different race winners out of the season and 14 different drivers on the podium at one point or another is quite a surprise. Some drivers clearly excelling in qualifying, but in the races, it's been wide open.
It's why you come to race at VRRC, I would say, and why people come to watch it as well. It's, as you mentioned, wide open, pretty much unpredictable, and qualifying doesn't say everything. Especially in a Civic Cup, something like this kind of car is sort of very advantageous to drivers who, one, like to get their elbows out just a touch, a bit less than John Jones potentially on the track limits there, but two, it's quite accessible. You can get used to the car. There are obviously coaching options of VRRC that help you get to grips with it a little bit quicker if you're struggling with it, but it is an accessible car that drivers do like to jump into, and it's satisfying when everything goes right as well, even if it's a bit bumpy when things go wrong. And it's not too far away from the car that we're about to jump into for the next season, Andy, is it? Because of course we've teased this on the social media accounts and everything like that, and there's a new series coming to VRRC, and it's the Virtual Touring Car Championship. Now, you might have said, oh, we've done that before, but this time we are the first, I believe, championship to do it with a hybrid system in place. So super exciting. We go on a European tour as Rich has delightfully put it in all the sort of promotional material. But that's absolutely right. So you'll have a hybrid button, just like the British Touring Car Championship this year. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit more reliable than the ones that are fitted to the British Touring Car Championship. But there's also a slightly new format with the races as well. We've got our usual 2 20-minute races, race 1 and 2. But every so often, when we go to Monza and Spa, you'll notice that we have a feature 40-minute race instead, which, Andy, as a sim racer yourself, will know that's a different kettle of fish all of a sudden.
Absolutely. I mean, it requires a very different mindset and a very different driving style. You have to manage the tyres, you're carrying a lot more fuel, brakes have to go longer. And the 2 circuits that we're running those races at, Monza and Spa, both very high-speed tracks, and I think they're good choices, actually, because Monza in particular, with the slipstream there, you'd expect the whole pack to stay close together for most of the 40 minutes. The same is probably true of Spa, so I think they could still be 2 of the most exciting races all season, even though they're that little bit longer than the 15-minute races that we will have at every other round. But yeah, fantastic to see a bit of innovation in sim racing and in the VRRC, a European group of circuits, which is nice as well. And a slightly longer season as well. You'll note over 8 weeks rather than the standard 6, so you get even more sim racing action for your money. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Head over to the VRRC Discord and their social media pages for more information on it if you want to enter the championship, and indeed more information on how and when you can watch the action. But certainly something that I'm looking forward to being involved in the near future.
Absolutely. Now, I do believe we have missed a big change in qualifying, so I do apologise for that. That was me prompting, and all of a sudden, as soon as we start talking about the next championship, this one spices up, because a big change at the front of the field sees Scott Bugner go to the top of the times. Now, Joel Lask did purple Sector 1, but I believe then went into the pit, so all of a sudden, the top 3 have mixed themselves up. Max Edmondson currently sat in 2nd place. Joel Lask now in 3rd. I believe Andy Carroll has improved and moved his way up into 6th place as well, just ahead of Kyle Felvers, who has unfortunately lost his top 5 positions, as Chris Shepherd bounces his way over the national pit chicane and goes straight into the pit lane. Probably convinced that he's not going to be able to keep that time, even if he set it. But Scott Bugner at the top, Andy, all of a sudden that's looking a little bit more comforting from his championship perspective.
Absolutely, because not only would that give him good track position for the race, but let's remember there are 2 championship points available for the driver who starts race 1 on pole position. At the moment, that would be Bugner, and that would further cement his position at the top of the times. It's also significant for those like Max Bird and Max Edmondson, Joel Lask, Elliot Dalton-Ayres, who are fighting for other positions within the top 5. Every point is going to count for those drivers. So in a way, Bugner doesn't really need the 2 points quite as much as people like Bird and Edmondson and the rest do in their fight for prizes further down the top 5. So let's see if any of them can find the time they need to improve and take that pole and the 2 points away. Certainly Edmondson, the man most likely, with just 32 1,000ths of a second separating him at the moment from that provisional pole. Andy Dorman about to come through and log a lap time. We're into the final 5 minutes now of the 15-minute qualifying session, 2/3 of the way through. Dorman comes through and does not manage to improve, but we've seen, Jack, quite a lot of drivers over the last few minutes diving for pit lane, sticking on a new set of tyres. I wouldn't bet against there being a few improvements here in the dying minutes.
Yeah, I'm amazed Kenny Press is still in the pit lane, to be honest, because lap time round here is roughly the 1:20 mark. So you're probably going to get, once you've done your outlap, you're probably only going to get about 2 or 3 laps in, even if you left the pit now. So you're getting a bit to that point where you won't have the time to switch the car on and get back into your rhythm. But Kenny Press has come out, so fingers crossed we have all drivers out here and ready to put on a bit of a grandstand finish. Now, I believe Max Edmondson went on green sector 1, but couldn't put it together for the rest of the sectors. We're unlikely to see a faster lap this time round, but again, just like I mentioned, we're going to start seeing cars being warmed up, tyres being warmed up as well, as Scott Bugner goes slightly quicker in sector 2. I think that's slightly quicker overall as well. He's got a bit of slipstream from his teammate ahead of him as he dives all over the curbs. Is he going to be able to cement that pole position by going a couple of tenths faster? Comes across the line, and no, he's about a tenth down on his pole position time at the moment. Joel Glask also comes across the line, doesn't improve. So I think we're probably going to have to wait maybe another lap or so, Andy, but people are going to start getting a little bit sweaty under the collar, I would say.
Yeah, certainly. You want to start as high up the order as you can, although I will say we've got most of the expected heavy hitters up there inside the top 2 or 3 rows already. It's just a case of what order they're going to find themselves starting in. Andy Carroll is a good effort, actually, isn't he? 6th fastest at the moment within 2/10 of pole position for Andy Carroll. His best qualifying effort of the season so far was a 6th place back at Thruxton, so he's matching that at the moment, but only 0.03 of a second away from bettering it in 5th place. Chris Shepherd, who excelled in the Cayman Cup, the last championship that he entered here on the VRRC, struggled a bit more in the Civic, and well, that kind of shows there because he fails to improve. He's now the slowest in the session because John Jones jumps up several positions and goes 13th fastest. What about Edmondson, man who led the championship for much of the early running, right up on 2 wheels? That was too much curb, too much grass, and not enough traction coming off the final chicane, so this is highly unlikely to be an improvement. Indeed, that proves to be the case, but he does still have time for another couple of laps.
Yep, Scott Bugner was just catapulting himself over the curbs in the background of that as well. He hasn't improved, just to let you know. But this is Eric Axel's son, currently down in 9th position, which I would say is slightly out of position for Eric, especially how he went last time out at Croft. He's obviously got no slipstream ahead of, well, no teammates to help him with the slipstream. Comes across the line and, well, is about 1.2 seconds off pole position, and also doesn't improve his time for 9th either, so it's not looking particularly good for Eric at the moment. Carl Felder's slipping down slightly. Elliot Dalton Heads hasn't really followed on from the momentum that he gained last time at Croft, has he? So it's a bit of a shame for him, but I can tell you that Scott Bugner has just gone green in Sector 1. Now, is his teammate up ahead of him almost getting in the way, Andy, or is the slipstream working well? We'll have to wait and see.
I think it's the latter of the two, because they've been circulating like this since they were last in the pit lane. They came out together and they've been about this distance apart, and then you can see that Lask does get out of the way out of Coppice. He didn't want to get in the way down the exhibition straight. Also, of course, Joel would quite like a lap in the slipstream as well, so I expect Bugner to tow him around on what will be the final lap of the session. Inch perfect through the first bit of the chicane. The car actually settles nicely over the second curb, and then Bugner pits. That's interesting. So obviously realised that he wasn't going to improve, but poor old Joel Lass would have quite liked a bit of a tow on this lap. So they may be teammates, but Scott Bugner not willing to give his teammate any help on the last lap. Brad Smith, I'm afraid, needs a bit of help finding the track. He is pointing the wrong way. I think that's out of McLean's. And about halfway up the hill towards Coppice. How he's ended up there, Jack, I don't know, but no sign of him moving anytime soon.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly even guess how he's done that, to be honest. He's clearly probably gone for the apex, and honestly, I can't even guess on that one. I'm guessing he's gone wide and it's ended up spitting him out, but for the reason he's not reversing is beyond me. Now I'm just wondering whether actually Scott Bugner was a little bit worried at the pace that Joel Lask was showing, to be honest, because Lask, even though he didn't get any slipstream as far as we could see anyway, he might have had it in the first half of this qualifying session, but we didn't get to see Bugner go ahead of Lask at all. Just wondering, Lask is only 10th off. So maybe with that slipstream ability, he would have been able to maybe get that 10th and get that pole position away from Scott. And that championship standings and those championship conversations start to get a little bit more complicated when you're talking about a team game. I know from supporting Tom for so very many years in a BMW around the touring cars, it can get a little bit complicated, and it can get a little bit focus, shall we say, in the pits. Now, Max Bird has just gone purple. This could be big.
Yes, Max really could do with those 2 extra championship points. Purple means that he's faster than anybody else in the first sector of the lap. Makes his way out of Coppice Corner, a crucial part of the circuit to get right, carry the speed down the exhibition straight. We're seeing no more improvements from anybody else inside the top 8 positions right now. So Bird, the last one, could possibly get up there and challenge for the pole. Hits the curb, hits the other. That looked neat and tidy, though. A bit wide onto the grass, but that might be all right. Max Bird needs to find just under a 10th and a half then to get the pole position away. He comes across the line, and all of that build-up comes to nothing because there is no improvement, and he stays in 4th place. But it did look promising through the first part of the lap. Max Bird then staying in 4th place, which means that Scott Bugner, the championship leader, looks as though he'll be on the pole position. Chris Shepherd, the last driver to come through, but he will bail for the pit lane. So that is qualifying done here at Donington. Join us on the other side of this short ad break to hear from the pole sitter and begin the preparation for race 1. Welcome back to Donington Park and the VRRC Civic Cup qualifying done and dusted here for the final time this season. Just 2 more races before this cracking season of racing comes to a close, and it is a pole position for Scott Bugner. And amazingly, Scott, who joins us now in the commentary box, that's your first pole the season. It's a bit like your winning record. You've only had 1 win this season. It's been your consistent race results which have put you in a commanding place in the points, but nice to get a pole position before the championship ends.
Yeah, save the best till last, I suppose. This is where it counts. You know, I've just got to, not get in trouble and, sort of stay where I am if I can, and help Joel where I can as well, so he can come up in the championship. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
You're in a slightly odd position in a way, because after the 2 points that you've just won in qualifying, that means you're 28 points up now. It means that unless you have a disqualification or a penalty of some sort, the championship is very much yours to lose. So does that in a way put a bit more pressure on your shoulders? Does it stop you being as willing to get stuck into the racing as you normally would?
Yeah, I don't want to get stuck in. If there's battling and I drop down to sort of 3rd or 4th, I'll sit behind and just get the popcorn out and watch what happens.
Well, this could well be what happens here. I think Donington is going to produce some of the best racing we've had all season. Is it a circuit that you particularly enjoy driving? You're clearly quick here, but I know a lot of drivers rank it as one of their favourites to drive.
Yeah, I do like this. It's probably my favourite track in real life as well. So both me well, because I'm racing here in a few weeks. So if we can do this in 3 weeks, I'll be happy.
There we go. Good practice then for real world racing. What's that you're racing in, Scott, in a few weeks' time?
MGZR in the MG Car Club. I'm actually at Silverstone this weekend doing the GP circuit with them.
Excellent stuff. Yes, I was covering some MGs at Silverstone last week. Great racing it is. Anyway, we'll let you carry on your preparations. Best of luck though for this one, mate. The championship virtually within your grasp. Let's hope that you have a clean opening race of the night.
Thank you very much.
Scott Bugner then on the pole position, and yeah, Jack, first time he's been on pole all season. That surprised me a little actually when I look back at that. But his whole season record been a bit surprising. Only once all season has he finished out of the top 5, and that was in that reverse grid race at Croft where he was caught up in a lap 1 shunt. His consistency has been incredible all season long.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it plenty of times. We'll continue to say it every time we cover something with a reverse grid, but the reverse grid is when you can lose a championship. It's also where you can win a championship. And Scott Bugner has been brilliant. He's been fantastic at carving his way through, spotting the danger 2 or 3 corners in advance. And I know us as commentators, we can get swept along with everything that's happening, and all of a sudden something takes us by surprise, and it all gets very exciting again. But the secret to a reverse grid win or a reverse grid decent finishing position is about keeping calm as best you can and spotting where the crashes are going to happen ahead of you, knowing who's around you as well. Obviously, a lot of driver knowledge comes into reverse grid racing, and because you can quite often just get carried away with just racing to 3 or 4 people that you're normally around at the front of the order. But when you actually have to carve through people who qualify in 20th, it can all get a little bit hairy. So Bugner has done it down to a T. He's been brilliant.
It really has, absolutely. It's been a masterclass, really, in how to put a championship together. Just the 1 win, which came in the first race at Silverstone. Can he get his second here in race number 1 at Donington Park? Round 11 of the VRRC Civic Cup then. The penultimate race of the season. Bugner on pole, Edmondson second, Lask third, Max Bird in 4th position. So that is the top 4 drivers in the championship actually filling out the top 4 places on the grid, just in a slightly different order. Remember, Max Bird, who is 4th on the grid, is 2nd in the points, just 5 points clear of Max Edmondson, who starts 2 places ahead of him. So that could really be where the fight is here between the 2nd, 3rd and 4th place drivers on the grid. Red lights then about to come on. 20 minutes of racing on the clock for round number 11 of the VRRC Civic Cup. Bugner on pole, Edmondson alongside him. Red lights go out. We're away and racing on the Donington Park National Circuit, and a great start from pole position by Bugner. No doubt about who the leader will be heading into that first turn. Edmondson comes across to the inside to cover from Lask, who goes to the outside line. Gets a bit of a squeeze there from Edmondson. Joel Lask is going to try and commit right round the outside. Gets squeezed onto the dirt, though, and that is Max Bird's opportunity to get up the inside of him. Paul Laramie is in strife towards the back of the field. But other than that, they're all cleanly through turn 1. And, well, Joel Lask taking the risk risk on the outside line, and it did not work. He loses third and maybe fourth as well.
I thought Carl Felvers was going to lunge his Elliot Dalton-Ayres is going to lunge his teammate as Joel Lasker's almost getting hung out to dry again. This time by Josh Martin. Here is the battle for the race lead though, is Max Edmondson going through as they go into McLean's. It's going to be Scott Bugner on the inside. He's going to hold on to that lead, or is Edmondson going to manage to carry the speed around the outside? I thought he was going to get nudged out a little bit wider then, like we saw in the TCRs a couple of weeks ago, but he just about managed to cling on to the circuit for the time being as Bugner flies all the way over the inside of Coppice. It's a decent line if track limits aren't enforced, that is, as Edmondson again though carries momentum. And Andy, this could get a little bit fraucous, and I think Max Bird is going to potentially be the driver who's the happiest about this, as Edmondson does get a full car length alongside. He gets ahead of Scott Bugner. The lead has changed.
Yes, but he was so late on the brakes into the chicane that he was very slow through the middle of it. Now, Bugner wasn't able to time the run to get alongside him, but that backs him to Max Bird, and this is exactly the kind of battling that Bugner could do without, really. Doesn't need to do all that well in this race. He dives up the inside of Max Edmondson. What a move on the brakes into Redgate corner, and he's going to get the race lead back. I think Max Bird gets the run on him as well as they come out of Redgate. Back to the lead, and Max Bird elbowing Max Edmondson for second place as they head through Hollywood into the left-hander at the Craner curves. Cold rear tyres still at this point. They've got to be careful. Bugner hangs on in front, and Bird will slither his way through into second. There's a bit of a touch on the apex though. Out wide onto the grass he goes, and that might just bring Joel Last back into play. But I'll tell you what, Jack, for a driver who said he wasn't going to get too involved, too stuck into these battles, Scott Bugner is getting rather stuck in, I think.
Yeah, fair play. That was an absolutely epic move up the inside. Really nice and late on the brakes as Carl Felvers gets past Josh Martin. So all of a sudden there's an HFT sandwich with Martin in the middle of it. Felvers getting to grips with this car, even if it is just a touch too late. But it's front-wheel drive next season as well. So fingers crossed, maybe he's just getting to grips with front-wheel drive. Bugner has a 0.3 of a second gap ahead of Max Bird and Edmondson as well. Is Edmondson going to look at the inside? No, he's going to hold off just for the time being. I think, actually, he didn't quite get the run through the first apex, but seems to have gathered it together on the second apex. So going down and towards the first corner, what are we going to see? Is Joel Last going to potentially do Bugner a favour and start a little bit of a civil war in the middle there? But as Kenny Press goes round, unfortunately, he won't be involved with any kind of battle.
Yeah, not quite sure how he got there, but he headbutts the tyre wall at the final corner. He's at the back of the field now. Max Edmondson is on the grass at Redgate corner, so Joel Last moving back into third place ahead of him then. And Max Edmondson in danger of slipping back here. He's got Josh Martin and Kyle Felvers side by side behind him. Martin on the left, Felvers is the yellow and blue car on the outside line. He has to give way to the Motor Swan livery machine of Josh Martin, who bounces over the grass but does hold on to that fifth position. So Bugner leading the way, struggling to get away here though from Max Bird in second, and a dive up the inside for Edmondson for third. That was late on the brakes, but this is the battle, remember, between Bird, Lask and Edmondson, really, and off goes Joel Last. Joel Last is off into the barriers coming out of McLean's corner. There must have been contact there with Max Edmondson, and that could be big for Lask's hopes of claiming this second place in the points.
Yeah, I was going to say that's big for championship-wise, isn't it? Edmondson was the one catching Bird, but I was going to make the point that actually Lask is the one chasing both of them. So it's a real shame that we see Lask falling wide there, and obviously there's potentially a stewards inquiry that will dictate that one, so we won't try and make too many assumptions, as Elliot Dalton-Ayres, I believe that is, skipping across the grass, potentially ruining his run out of the last corner, and I think Eric Axelson's going to go alongside him. Now, they are allowed to use the pit exit. Dave Marshall has been allowing everyone to use that pit exit to gain a little bit of more room on the outside to sweep the corner, but Eric couldn't make it happen for him just then.
Yes, so interesting stuff then. That means that Max Bird is second still, but Edmondson will be to third, and Josh Martin into fourth position. There's Eric Axelson coming through the old hairpin. Had his worst qualifying effort of the season, actually, a few moments ago, did Axelson. But he's moving forward in the race. Brad Smith off wide, but he is also just hanging on to a 10th place spot at the moment. He makes his way up towards McLean's, where we find Eric Axelson trying to go the long way around Elliot Dalton-Ayres. That was a brave move to try, and it doesn't really work out. So Dalton-Ayres hanging on. As Elliot defends, though, it's dropping this whole group away from the top six. So we've got sort of a top six breakaway here, really. Bugner, Bird, Edmondson, Martin, Felvers, top five breakaway, in fact, and then Dalton-Ayres in sixth position, the cork in the bottle.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Andy Carroll looks like there's a little bit of contact there with Axelson, and I wasn't quite sure where to go, I think, around the back of Dalton Ayres, who absolutely catapults his way over the curves. Axelson's a little bit more conservative through there, isn't he? Let's face it, he's not a fan of getting his suspension broken. As Andy Carroll, as I said, is looking interested, but not really quite there in terms of being able to make a race move. Is there a race move going on for third place? Oh, Axelson, that is... Well, there's a apex somewhere, not in that postcode, though.
That was an interesting line through Redgate. I'm not convinced it was a particularly fast one, though. So Axelson loses 7th place. Andy Carroll goes through. Now, this is the 3rd place squabble that you spotted in the distance. Still Edmondson in 3rd place, but certainly being asked all the right questions here by Josh Martin, who is the lightest car in this lead group. Look, he's only carrying the 10 kilos of handicap weight, surrounded by a bunch of drivers who are in Group 3 of the handicap system, so they carry 30 kilos. That counts for Buckner, Bird and Edmondson ahead of him, and Kyle Felvis actually behind him. But Josh Martin, who has certainly had his moments this season of being strong. He's had 2 podium finishes, actually, in the reverse grid race at Brands Hatch at the start of the season, and he was 3rd in our most recent race at Croft. It was the bit in the middle where things went a little bit awry, and that's what's dropped him down into 7th place in points, but he could mathematically still get into the top 5 if he has a good night here tonight.
Yeah, and I remember his mate being prompted to do a shoey because Josh Martin did get on the podium. But we'll talk about that in a little bit in a minute, because Max Bird is under real pressure from Max Edmondson. Bird going defensive in the middle of the road. Is he going to make the apex? Yes, he does. He's not going to have the best run out. Look at that, Edmondson just about creaks the door open as they go down to Hollywood. Edmondson obviously trying to chase Max Bird in the points. There's 5 points between them, but as they go down Crater Curves, there's not even 5 centimetres between them. Going into Old Hairpin, Edmondson makes the move stick. Martin is all kinds of sideways coming out of it as he looks interested in trying to take another position off Bird, who gets a bit hung out and boxed out, to be honest. And I think Bird's going to slot down. They're going to go 3 wide into McLean's. That's probably not advisable. Up the inside, tries to go Max Bird. Edmondson gets a nudge. Josh Martin gets a fantastic cut back on them both.
That was absolutely brilliant from Josh Martin. He read that situation perfectly and realised they were going to hold each other up, and he could get the switch back on the exit. So Edmondson drops a place, so does Bird. But actually, Max, I think, will fend off Max Bird. So that is significant. Josh Martin into 2nd place, then 2 places gained. That was 4 championship points that Martin gained through one really, really good bit of racecraft. Kyle Felvis, remember, is still there in 5th. And actually, Elliot Dalton Ayres has really broken away from the Axelson battle behind to the tune of nearly 2 seconds now, and has gone after his HFT Racing teammate. So it's a 5-way fight for 2nd place now then. Brad Smith out wide in the background. He will drop Willia place. No, actually comes across the line pretty much level with Andy Dorman, who's carrying a little bit of front-end damage. This is 8th place Andy Carroll, followed by 9th place battling Brad Smith and Andy Dorman, with Smith going through on the inside line. Dorman will try and fight back on the exit, as Max Bird has done against Max Edmondson. These two won't leave each other alone, will they?
Absolutely not. And Carl Felvis, now he's got a sniff at it, also won't leave them alone, I imagine. Bird up the inside again of Edmondson, who runs, again, just a touch wide. That's really ruining his way up through into McLean's, isn't it? Felvis getting on the inside of Bird, though. He's going to have a nice run. Is he going to hug that curb? Yes, he is. Hits down on the brake, gets ahead of Max Bird, and now has his sights set on Max Edmondson. But look at Josh Martin. He's absolutely ran away with it just because these 4 drivers have all started to fight. Elliot Dalton Ayres is obviously involved. Now, I was going to mention that Josh Martin, we haven't chatted about him in terms of championship standings, and that's because he's not in the fight for a real prize, but he is in the fight for 6th place against Eric Axelson, who's not having the best race so far. Clearly doesn't show much pace. So Josh Martin, that could be a key move as he slots himself into 2nd for trying to take that overall 6th place away.
Well, and don't forget, he is 24 points behind Joel Lask. Well, Lask at the moment is down in 12th. So if a couple of drivers currently inside the top 5 in points were to have a really bad night, then Josh could absolutely still get himself a prize out of all of this,
right,
even if it is just for 5th place. So worth him pushing on. Max Bird bouncing wide there over the grass in 5th position. Hangs on to the place, but drops away a little bit here from Kyle Felvis. It's not going all that well for Max here. As it stands then, he is running in 5th position, with Max Edmondson in third place, so that would be a 4-point swing, and he was 5 points ahead of Edmondson. So those two at the moment will be separated by a solitary point going into the decider in, 15 minutes or so for that second place prize. But all things could change here. We're only halfway through the race, just under 10 minutes if it's still to go. Buckner leading the way still. There is Joel Last now. Of course, he's still gaining ground. He just got past Paul Laramie into 11th.
Yeah, so again, crucial points scored for him, but it's all going to be about the reverse grid, isn't it? That's what he's pinning all the hopes on now. It was a real shame, though, to see him getting catapulted out wide. I mean, it's a bit difficult to call because obviously we only get one opportunity at seeing it. Your instincts may say one thing, but they could be completely wrong when you actually see another replay from another angle. But what we can say is we're heartbroken for Joel Last. We've constantly said over the course of this season about in front-wheel drive just seems to suit him. He seems to just click with it. And he's so much quicker than, say, he was at the Cayman. So it was nice to see him in a championship battle, obviously with a good teammate in Scott Buckner, as I was just about to get excited because I thought Max Bird was going to dive at the inside. But yeah, a shame for Joel Last. But you never know. He's going to be further to the front for the reverse grid race, of course. So you never know. He could end up taking a victory away from tonight.
Yeah, he's about 10 and a half seconds now behind Andy Dorman for 10th position. So keep an eye on that gap, but it's unlikely that he's going to be able to get any more ground in this one, unless, of course, people start falling off the road ahead of him, which you wouldn't bet against, because this battle is continuing to be just as intense as ever it was. Josh Martin has sort of escaped it now in second position. Edmondson is the one who seems to be struggling, maybe running out of front tyres, because he does seem to be suffering from quite a bit of understeer at the moment. You saw him run wide there out of McLean's corner. This is the number 33 car at the front of this big group, just struggling a bit maybe for front-end grip, and that's something you really need around here at Donington. You've got lots of these long, medium and high-speed corners, and once your left front tyre starts to cry enough, that is really going to affect your lap times.
Well, we heard from a couple of the drivers at Brands Hatch, didn't we, all the way at the first round of the season, how badly these Civics really do churn up the front tyres. And as Edmondson runs a little bit wide, I think you're starting to see more evidence of that. As Carl Felvers under a real attack here from Max Bird up the inside into turn one. Bird nice and late on the brakes. There's going to be a little bit of contact, but that is Civic racing at the end of the day. Felvers gets nudged out wide as Max Bird goes through, and a flash of the lights shows you that Carl Felvers wasn't very happy about it.
I knew the headlight flash was coming, just as certainly as I knew the hip and shoulder was coming from Max Bird. That was pretty easy to predict. Carl Felvers there just showing his displeasure at his treatment at Redgate Corner there. And Max Bird may well get it back, of course, now, if Felvers can get up the inside of him into McLean's corner. He's close enough to have the lunge. Surely Bird will cover the inside. Doesn't, actually. That's interesting. They both take the wide line into that right-hander, clip the curb slightly, and their side-by-side exchange just gives Edmondson a little bit of a breather now. 0.7 of a second is his gap up the road. Coppice Corner they head, and back down the exhibition straight. So Carl Felvers in 5th place in the slipstream. Can he have a go on the brakes into the chicane? We haven't really seen anyone try this move yet so far in this race. Is Felvers going to be the first to give it a go? No, because it's far more important to get the good exit from the chicane and then challenge into Redgate. That's the bigger braking point, and with a mistake there from Max Bird, this could open the door for Felvers.
That is exactly why you wait until the exit of the chicane, because it can make the move into the first corner all that easier. As Felvers goes at the inside of Max Bird, he tries to do what Bird did just a lap ago. But he can't quite get there. Bird does run wide, and that gives Felvers a little bit easier. Now that we saw Felvers running wide earlier on, but that was due to contact. That one was Bird just going too fast through the corner. Oh, there's going to be contact as they try and sweep back onto the racing line, though. Bird holds it. Felvers slots in just ahead of his teammate Elliot Dalton-Ayres, but again, we've seen this plenty of times through Old Hairpin. Bird runs a little bit wide. Felvers now has an opportunity. Edmondson's driven away. Like you said, we're on board with Elliot Dalton-Ayres, the prime candidate for the best seat in the house here. Can he take advantage just like Josh Martin did about 10 minutes ago?
Yeah, this all has the potential to change, and for Max Bird, it's quite a perilous position. He can't be affording to lose these points here, can he? There are 3 cars queuing up behind him. If 2 or 3 of those cars go through, that's a big handful of points he'll be giving away. He will certainly lose second in the championship if he starts losing more positions. Right now, he's only 1 place behind Edmondson, only dropping 2 championship points, so he would hold on to that second place as things stand, but the potential for him to lose more certainly looks fairly significant. He settles down a bit now, though, gets a better exit from the chicane this time, and is Felvers going to try and stick it back up the inside into Redgate Corner? Wouldn't bet against it, but he's just not quite close enough this time, and Max Bird is able to turn in, hits the apex, hopefully doesn't understeer too wide this time. No, that was much neater, and so the positions stay as they were for the time being with 5 minutes left on the clock.
Josh Martin in second place is doing an absolute sterling job, isn't he, really? I mean, he's sort of maintaining that gap between himself and Max Edmondson, but at one point I was gonna, as he goes very wide as I'm singing his praises, at one point I was thinking, okay, he's gotten himself into second place, that's a smart bit of driving, good bit of racecraft, but does he have the pace as soon as one of the pack just behind him actually get released? And when Max Edmondson got released, I thought, oh, here we go. This could be a bit of a problem for him. But actually, he's only losing about 2 or 3 tenths of a second per lap, and he had a decent margin. Even if Edmondson does get up to the back of Josh Martin, that doesn't mean it's going to be an easy overtake either. And as soon as Martin slows him up, all of a sudden, that other 3 that we've been following for so long, Bird, Felvers, and Dalton Ayres, they come back into the question for seconds. So Martin has to be smart about this, even if he doesn't have that overall pace. Scott Bugner has driven away with this and is somewhat making it a bit of a dull end to the championship as a whole. I say as a whole, a dull end to the champion leader. Anyway, but to be honest, he probably won't care. He was hoping for a dull race, wasn't he? He didn't really want to get his elbows out at all.
Yeah, interesting that he elected to go for that risky move, though, earlier on. I know I mentioned it at the time, but when he was battling for the lead there in the early stages, he dropped down to second on the first lap, dived back to the inside and got it away again at Redgate Corner. And at the time, I sort of felt like that was a risk he didn't need to take, but he clearly felt that he had the pace to get away, and he's absolutely right, because he's 2.5 seconds up the road and consistently has a tenth or so in hand over Josh Martin in second place. So he clearly felt that he could win the race and lead it from the front throughout, and that was going to be the safer place for him to be, and I can't say he's wrong. It looks like it's going to work out pretty perfectly for him at the moment. Now, this battle has been raging on for some time here. Andy Dorman in 9th, Smith in 10th place. They've traded this 9th place a few times. Dorman, even with that front end damage, hanging on to the position, but he can't quite shake off that brightly coloured car of Brad Smith, can he?
No, and they're not slowing each other down enough for Joel Last to come in the equation, really, either. So it's been a nice battle. Hopefully they've enjoyed it, these two. Even if it isn't 4 podium positions, it still doesn't mean you can't get out here and enjoy your racing, of course. You see it in any championship, real life or sim-based. It doesn't matter what position you're fighting for, as long as you're enjoying it and having a close battle with your mates that's clean and fair, and really, you don't mind at all. Right, back to the front though, where everything has been, I would say, clean and fair for the most part between these 3 drivers. Max Bird again running wide though. He just seems to be sending too much pace in. Oh, I was going to keep it clean and fair, Kyle. Come on, let's not get carried away through Hollywood. He did give a little bit of a bump to Max Bird, but Max doing the typical front-wheel drive thing, keeping his foot in it, straightens the car up. As they go through Old Hairpin, you can tell that Kyle does have a little bit more pace underneath that bonnet, doesn't he? He's going to start putting a little bit more pressure on, as if he hasn't piled enough on already. Yeah,
looks to the inside at McLean's, but Max Bird chops across his nose. He's not going to let Felvers have this position without a big fight, is he? Also, keep an eye to the fight for second, because Josh Martin, perhaps running out of front tyres, is being caught here by Max Edmondson. So we've got a 3-way fight for 4. And then it's getting an awful lot tighter for second place, and that is significant because both of those drivers, in particular Edmondson, need the extra points for their chances of a good finishing position in the championship. So, as usual, get to the end of these races, a lap and a bit to go now, and you don't quite know where to watch, do you? Certainly Scott Bugner has a healthy lead, but behind it's very close indeed. Out wide goes Dalton Ayres, but a brilliant exit from the chicane there from Kyle Felvers, and he draws level now with Max Bird to the outside line of the 4th placed car into Redgate Corner. Now he probably won't try and go right round the outside, backs off early, tried to get the switch back. Bird was wise to it, tried to park it on the apex and gets punted out wide for his trouble. So they again are wheel to wheel, and now Dalton Ayres joining in again as well. Down the hill they go, absolutely together.
Yeah, this is a little bit sweaty, isn't it? Especially if you are Max Bird, you can't afford to lose too many points, but he is getting nudged around, he's getting nerfed out of it. I think the bump from Elliot Dalton has actually helped him to carry some more momentum and actually answer back to Carl Felvers as they jump over the apex on the left-hand side. Completely flat out, of course. Eric Axelsson has joined the party. He's seen his invite. He's RSVP'd a little late, but he's getting involved now. Felvers on the inside of McLean's can't, again, quite make it stick. Max Bird, he's running wide in pretty much every single corner, but it's really working well for him. And all of a sudden, Andy Carroll's involved as well. This is now a 5-way battle for that last 4th place as you see Max Edmondson flashing those lights.
He's definitely been quicker than Josh Martin over the last few laps. So it's funny, we said in the middle part of the race that Edmondson might be struggling with his tyres. That doesn't now seem to be the case, does it? Because he is clearly quicker than the second place car, but has just one lap left to try and find a way through. Scott Bugner on his way to his second victory of the season, and surely now the championship is his. But for the lower placing, has anybody guessed? Here comes Edmondson up the inside of Josh Martin into Redgate corner. Martin late on the brakes, misses the apex slightly, but that's okay. That wider line gives him some momentum off the turn. It's all kicking off in the background as well. Look, the inside of Felvers hanging on. Bit of contact through Hollywood. That almost ended in tears, but Max Bird for now stays in 4th position. Down the hill they go. Old Hairpin is the next place that you could choose to launch an attack. No one in this group goes for it though. They stay as they are, with actually Andy Carroll very much making this a 5-way fight. Bird is out wide. He's having a hop, skip and a jump over the grass, and that now opens the door beautifully for Felvers. He's got the inside line heading through Starkey's, Schwantz and into McLean's. Well, he's on the outside through Starkey's and Schwantz, but the inside for McLean's corner. Wheel to wheel, does he repay the favour and nerf Bird out wide? He doesn't, interestingly. They keep it clean, and Felvers keeps on coming on the inside line into Coppis. They make contact. Finally, it happens. Sideways for Bird, and here comes Dalton Ayres on the inside as well. On the grass he goes. Contact left, right and centre, and somehow it's still Max Bird ahead as they head down the back straight and towards the exhibition chicane for the final time. For second, it was getting tight as well. Scott Bugner is on his way to the race victory, and provisionally I think that means we can now call him the VRRC Civic Cup champion. Second place in the race goes to Martin, third to Edmondson, fourth against all the odds will be Max Bird from Felvers, Dalton Ayres, Axelson and Carroll. As quick as you can say it, for 4th position. That was some tremendous racing, and Max Bird with the defensive drive of the night so far to hang on to what could be an important place.
I was going to say, I think Carl Felvers could rival B&Q, the amount of taps he was throwing out, couldn't he? It's quite incredible. I mean, it all took the attention away from Scott Bugner as well, who obviously will do the quick maths now, but I think it does mean that he pretty much is the provisional champion. I don't think anybody can reply in race 2. I mean, we have to call it provisional for any stewards' inquiries, but he didn't really get his elbows out at all, so we can't really hold on to that one. I'm sure Josh Martin with a great defensive drive on that last lap. We didn't get to see much of it because that battle between Bird, Felvers, Dalton Ayres, Axelson and Andy Carroll in the end was just sensational. Well done to all of them for finishing the race, because there was one point there, Andy, about Coppis, where I thought, you know what, we're going to have 3 or 4 cars just end up flying over to the right-hand side. We're going to have a big mess to clear up. And I thought we were going to have some sour grapes, but that was fantastic. And look at the way they're forming up now. It's almost like a guard of honour.
Yeah, I think they enjoyed that rather. We certainly did. We will have all of the feedback from our podium finishing drivers in just a few minutes' time. So a dramatic opening race of the night here in the VRRC Civic Cup at Donington Park sees Scott Bugner claim his second victory of the season, and we reckon that is now enough for him to be provisionally at least crowned the VRRC Civic Cup champion. And he, as well as our other 2 podium finishes from that race, join us in the commentary box now. Scott, huge congratulations. That was pretty much the perfect race. You started on pole, you led almost every lap. Didn't quite lead the first one, but every lap beyond that, and you were able to escape all of the battling behind, which was pretty much exactly what you said you wanted to do.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Obviously, Max got me, I think, on the first lap, and I thought, do I just follow him and I'll, try and break away? And then I just thought of Joel in the background, because I knew he needed to try and beat Max. So I thought, I've seen Matt Neal do it a few times into the first corner, so I thought I'd give it a go. And it did work, and I managed to get away, and then the chaos happened behind, and it was just a nice sort of easy race by the end of that.
Yeah, that move you made into Redgate, you made it look remarkably easy, but I know it's not an easy move to make. You must have felt confident in your pace to get away at the front, because that was a risk that otherwise surely you wouldn't have taken.
Yeah, I knew my race pace wasn't too bad. I was actually more worried about my qualifying pace, but yeah, and then sort of just counting the laps down, and I kept just going, please don't get a power cut. Internet, don't drop out, just keep going, keep going. I managed to bring it home, thankfully.
You did indeed, and provisionally then you are the champion, which means I'm sure we'll get a chance to chat to you again later on tonight, so we'll let you go off and prepare for race number 2, where hopefully you can have a bit of fun now.
Yeah, pressure's off. I can just go and I don't know how Joel's looking in the championship now, but go for it and have a bit of fun and see what we can do.
Stuff. Looking forward to it. Congratulations, Scott, on the race win. Jack, meanwhile, has our second place finisher.
Yeah, Josh, there's a lot to unpack in that race, but first of all, talk us about your move to get into second place from fourth. That was pretty epic.
Yeah, that was a bit dicey being on the outside going in, because I think we were 3 wide.
Yeah.
And I kind of then broke a bit early, got the cut back in, sweep past both of them, and then yeah, I got into a really good rhythm, and I was setting really good lap times looking forward, and then I got to about, I don't know, 6-7 minutes from the end, I started looking in my mirrors, fell out of my rhythm, and then that's when Max started to reel me in.
I was going to say, looking in your mirrors is poison to a driver, isn't it, unfortunately? But Edmondson asked you some questions on that last lap. Did you ever feel like that was it was going to eke away from you?
I saw him dive up behind me a couple of times, but I knew I had a little bit of a weight advantage on the brakes. So yeah, I just tried to look forwards really and not look in my mirrors too much.
Well, congratulations, Josh. Hopefully we'll see another showy, because that's another podium. We'll chat to you hopefully after race 2.
Yeah, I think it needs to be done.
Excellent stuff. Congratulations on that one. Now, our third place finisher in that race, well, it was Max Edmondson. And Max, a season that started off so well for you. The bit in the middle didn't quite go to plan, but nice to get you back on the podium here in our penultimate race of the season.
Yeah, it all went downhill from Silverstone, didn't it? I was at my mate's house, and everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. Last week I struggled with track and weight. This week has gone better, but I knew if Scott beat me in that race, that first race, if Scott got points in that first race, there was no point in me, or there's no chance of me getting the championship. So I'm just focused on second now.
Which is well within your grasp. 2 points you are behind Max Bird coming into this race, so it's almost winner takes all between you two, and you've got to come from the back of the grid. We're going to enjoy watching this. Are you looking forward to it at all?
Yes, but I'll tell you if I was after. See what the result is.
I thought you might say something like that. Right, Max, we'll let you go. Best of luck and put on a show for us here in race 2.
I'll try. Thank you.
Max Edmondson then third place, and yes, this is how the championship looks. Scott Bugner is now in an unassailable championship lead, but for second place, just 2 points between Max Edmondson and Max Bird. The other way round, Bird ahead of Edmondson. Dalton Ayres, meanwhile, has a 3-point cushion over Joel Lask, and both of them could mathematically still beat Bird and Edmondson if those two have an absolute disaster, although realistically it's those two pairs, Bird and Edmondson for second, Dalton Ayres and Lask for third position, with Josh Martin 12 points further back. So again, if Josh has a really good race here, he could still get into that top 5. It is a full reversed grid as always, although it looks like only 16 have been reversed for some reason. So you've got Scott Bugner 16th, Martin 15th, Edmondson in 14th with on pole position Kenny Press and Reese Bell alongside him. The lights go off for the final time this season. We're racing in the VRRC Civic Cup, and off towards Redgate we go. Watch the leaders, watch the big hitters in the championship coming from the back of the field, and watch for chaos through the first couple of corners. It will be Press who holds on to the advantage, then Mark Hughes there in second, and there's already contact. That's John Jones into the side of Joel Lask. Joel Lask is off the road, and that is the last thing that he needed for his hopes of hanging on to 5th place in the championship.
Was there a pun in there? Did I hear a pun? Was it a Lask thing that he needed? Because that would be a bit of a kick in the teeth. But Reese Bell going through old hairpin, comfortably in 3rd place. Carl Felvers, Elliot Dalton Ayres. Elliot Dalton Ayres now just needs to really finish anywhere ahead of Lask. And at the moment, that's not looking too difficult. He just needs to keep it clean as best he can. The fight for 3rd position has Paul Laramie involved as Reese Bell stays alongside him, stays ahead of him, sorry, as Brad Smith flies it and takes advantage of Paul Laramie going a little bit wide. Eric Axelsson getting involved though, trying to go 3 wide in towards Coppis. It's all getting a little messy. Axelsson on the inside is probably always going to come out of that one safe and sound, but he has the HFT teammates just behind him as John Jones flies off the circuit. Loads of action going on, but at the moment it's Kenny Press still leading, followed by Hughes, Reese Bell, Smith, and then Axelsson, Dalton Ayres and Felvers. Where else are we looking? We're looking at John Jones getting hit wide.
And that was because Josh... Oh, what's going on there? Someone's around. That's Dorman, I think, around. And that was someone gaining lots of places. On the way in, it was Josh Martin and Max Edmondson tangling, which sent John Jones off. He was completely innocent in all of that. But then something else happened on the exit of the final chicane. Down into Redgate. Press leads the way. Bell second. Hughes is third. There go the two teammates working in tandem. Scott Bugner into 9th. Joel Lask into 10th. And both of them up the inside of Josh Martin. That's significant for Martin and not in a good way because he's losing places, losing points for 3rd place. They're losing paint and almost losing control down the hill. They do. Sideways for Hughes. Brad Smith goes through. Hughes is slow off the corner. And so Eric Axelson and Elliot Dalton-Ayres get the run heading up the hill.
I'll tell you what, Hughes may be losing positions, but he did well to hold on to the car. It was a fantastic bit of driving through Old Hairpin. He's going to lose the positions as Axelson blends his way through quite nicely, and I think Dalton-Ayres is going to try and follow suit. No, Hughes comes back on the circuit and snaps that door shut, much to the annoyance of the HFT car just behind him, but he runs wide, so he may well lose that position. Now, yes, he does, Elliot Dalton-Ayres. Nicely go. I think there's a little bit of lag there. I'm going to very quickly blame the lag because there was a bit of glitching in and out left and right, so a bit of a shame. Scott Bugner, then Max Edmondson in 7th place. So Bugner and Lask. I was about to say Bugner's just going to let his teammate through there, but it didn't look anything nice about that one.
Yeah, okay. Well, through goes Lask, but that was a little bit unexpected to see those two trading paint. Right, for 3rd position here, Eric Axelson on the outside of Brad Smith. He's got Dalton-Ayres and Felvis and Edmondson behind, and there's contact as he gets into the back of Brad Smith. The gloves are off here, aren't they, in this final round of the championship with positions and points and prizes up for grabs, and no one is holding back. Axelson through, Felvis follows him, and Max Edmondson, that's Dalton-Ayres, then Felvis, then off goes Smith, and that will now allow Max Edmondson through into 6th position. So Brad Smith was the aggressor initially, a couple of corners earlier, and then ended up, unfortunately, dropping to the tail of that group. Now you've got Dalton-Ayres up the inside of Eric Axelson. This is for 3rd place, and that was a lovely move. Got to the apex, Axelson eased out wide, and I think the two HFT drivers will both gain out of that.
Yeah, I think Edmondson might as well, actually, because he's going up the inside at Coppice on Axelson. So Axelson loses 3 positions in the space of about 100 yards. Now, this is important because Edmondson, all he has to do is finish ahead of Max Bird. Now, Max Bird was involved in the fracas, shall we say, on the exit of the chicane at the end of the 1st lap. That's why he's still fighting with the likes of Brad Smith and having to really chuck his weight about to try and get past these drivers. And there's more weight being chucked about as, this is a bit nasty, isn't it? Brad Smith, Chris Shepherd, is that, I believe? Yes, it is. Andy Carroll involved. And, yeah, we'll try and move on from that one, shall we say. But Max Bird back into the top 10 now, but he's got an awfully big ass to try and catch up to Edmondson. But these two HFT teammates fighting may help him just a touch.
Yeah, that's Dalton-Ayres then 3rd. Felvis trying to find a way past him as they drop down the hill, and then Edmondson in that 5th place. But yeah, well spotted. Edmondson in 5th place then, and Max Bird languishing down in 9th means that 2nd in the championship would go back to Edmondson. As it stands, now if Max Bird can get to within 1 place behind Edmondson, that may start to change. Then they'd be tied on points, and it would go back to the count back. There goes Felvis up the inside of Dalton-Ayres for 3rd. The lead gap is coming down as well. Reece Bell and Kenny Press, untroubled by championship battles, are getting themselves together in a pretty entertaining fight for the lead. Here we've got the two HFT teammates very much not working together, and it might be to the benefit of Max Edmondson, who goes up the inside. There's a bit of a hip and shoulder, and another down the straight, and there we go, a 4th bit of contact just for good luck. This is going to end in tears, isn't it? Down into the chicane they go. Edmondson up the inside of both of them. Fantastic stuff. Surely he's not going to get through. Well, he might do, because Felvis bounces through the gravel. Edmondson goes wide on the exit of the chicane, and that might now play back into the hands of Dalton-Ayres and even Eric Axelson, who close in behind. Edmondson briefly into 3rd. He might well lose that at Redgate, though.
Yeah, 3 wide almost as Axelson goes from the very outside to the very inside and launches up the inside of all of them. Joel Lask follows on through as well. He's not taking anything, is he, this race? Lask, he's getting his elbows out. He thinks, you know what, if I get punted off in the 1st race, then I'm just going to do everything I can to come through on the 2nd race. And that's exactly what he is doing. I was going to question slightly Carl Felvis going through and being so adamant on being the one leading the HFT train, considering Elliot Dalton-Ayres is very much in for a championship battle in terms of championship prizes. And as this Kenny Press, as they've changed position, haven't they? Reece Bell is now in the race lead.
Yeah, I didn't see how that happened, but Bell goes in front and now will try to escape before this lot catch them, but they're not going to catch them if they keep on doing this. Edmondson is now third, Lask is fourth, and that's important because that puts him now a couple of positions, a few places actually, ahead of Elliot Dalton-Ayres. Remember, Dalton-Ayres is 3 points ahead of Lask in the fight for fourth place in the championship, so that could well be of significance come the end of the race. Lask now trying to gain more ground and goes to the outside of Edmondson into the final chicane. Josh Martin joining in the fun as well, comes diving up the inside of Dalton-Ayres, who is suddenly finding himself falling down and down the order. Max Bird is on the tail of this group as well. Now, this is important then. Edmondson at the front of the queue, at the back of it. If Edmondson can't escape, then Max Bird still has half a chance of getting that P2 in the championship. But at the moment, Edmondson absolutely can't escape. Tangles with Joel Lask up the inside, tries to go Felvers. This is not over yet for Max Bird.
No, absolutely isn't. Keep in mind that Joel Lask actually ended up on the outside through turn 1 on lap 1, of course, as well. So he's had a fantastic drive. But Felvers and Lask almost getting into each other, and Lask has been gotten into now as he drifts around Old Hairpin. He just about holds it on for the circuit. He will rejoin, but how badly is that going to hurt him? Yet again, it's going to fall in behind. No, it's not going to fall in behind Elliot Dalton-Ayres, because Dalton-Ayres also went ridiculously wide. Scott Bugner is there to give the assist to Joel, I'm sure, if he needs it. But this is a recovering Max Bird at the inside of him now. And all of a sudden, the championship, it looked gone. It looked done and dusted for second place and potentially for fourth. It is anything but now. Bird goes through ahead of Joel Lask, and it looks like Scott Bugner is damned if he does, damned if he doesn't at this point to try and overtake his teammate.
Well, he really should be helping his teammate, in all honesty. Bugner's got the title wrapped up, and Lask needs to be beating Dalton-Ayres by a couple of places here, and that is Dalton-Ayres in the yellow car behind. Up the inside of Bird goes Bugner. That was really aggressive on the brakes. Makes the move, but with a bit of contact, there's another tap, and Bird is in the wall. Max Bird is in the barriers coming out of the final corner. That was, I think, Lask who got into the back of him. Lask drops behind Dalton-Ayres. That's significant too, but for Max Bird, that might have been one incident too many to bounce back from. We've still got over 11.5 minutes to go, but that puts Bird back in 10th place, and Edmondson in 3rd is pulling away from this group. Brad Smith is off wide in the background as well. Andy Dorman gaining some places, but Max Bird's race goes from bad to worse.
We are seeing also, just to bring it up, some very interesting team driving, shall we say. Elliot Dalton-Ayres getting nudged out wide. Now, this is a battle for championship position. I'll get back to the team driving in a second, because this is important, Andy, isn't it? As they go up towards McLean's, it's going to be Dalton-Ayres giving the proper hip and shoulder into Joel Lask, and Elliot still just about holding on to that one, but this one looks like they could be starting to boil over as Max Bird throws his hat into the ring.
Yeah, now remember, it was Lask who tangled with Bird at the chicane, and it's Lask who Bird is up the inside of now at Coppice Corner. You don't want to be making enemies when you're fighting for a championship position here, and I think Lask would do well, actually, to let Bird go and then try and follow him past Dalton-Ayres. I don't think that's what he's doing, because he's trying to retaliate heading down into the chicane, but Bird should, on the inside line, move back into that 9th position. But look, Edmondson at the front of the queue now is 1.2 seconds. In fact, he's fighting, actually, for second place here with Kenny Press, who I don't think will fight this too hard into Redgate Corner. Edmondson late on the brakes, turns across his nose and move into second place. Edmondson could yet win this race, actually, because he's only 1.6 seconds behind the race leader, Reece Bell, and should be able to close that gap down. Joel Lask certainly isn't working with Max Bird, because they're side by side again out of Redgate Corner, and Joel Lask trying to move back through now into this 9th position. Bird, though, of course, will stand his ground through the crane of curves, but that will put him on the outside line for the old hairpin. Lask goes through, and as long as he doesn't run wide on the exit, should make the place his own.
Yeah, but he does run very wide on the exit, doesn't he? Which opens up another opportunity for Bird to have that counter. Now, this is allowing Elliot Dalton-Ayres to run away from these two. And considering Elliot Dalton-Ayres is only wanting to fight with Joel Lask, really, that exactly what's just happened. Max Bird up the inside is everything that Elliot wanted to see in his rearview mirrors, with Andy Carroll going bit aggressive on Dorman. Now, last little bit to talk about Max Edmondson before he goes for that race lead, which he will do in a couple of laps, because he's already gained about half a second on Reece Bell. Oh, Max Bird just going off the circuit there for some reason. Max Edmondson is probably the only driver in a championship battle right now that could potentially go for that fastest lap of the race, which of course is an all-important point. So if he gets the race win and he gets that championship point for fastest lap, all of a sudden we could see him scoring 26 points, which could be crucial and pretty much dagger in the heart of Max Bird, even though he is trying his best to carve his way through. Carl Felvers and Josh Martin get through on Kenny Press as well.
which is easy for you to say. Down the hill they go. And yeah, Felvers into third position, and Prest now really just trying not to get in the way, which sounds awful, but these are some of the quickest drivers in the championship coming up behind him. Eric Axelsen dives through the old hairpin. This, though, is for the race lead, and Reece Bell, of course, going for his first victory of the season. I would have thought wouldn't make this too easy for Max Edmondson. Max makes it look quite easy by going up the inside at McLean's corner and making the move stick. Reece Bell realistically has one more chance to try and get back at Max before Edmondson starts to get away, and he's not able to do that through Coppice corner. So Max Edmondson into the race lead. 3 times a race winner Max was inside the first 5 races of the season. He's not been on the podium since then until the race earlier on tonight. That is a remarkable stat. That middle part of the championship is really where it all went wrong for Edmondson, who was doing all of the winning in the early part of the season. But yeah, desperately now trying to get back onto the top step of the podium and become a 4-time winner. He would have more wins than anybody else this season. It was just the consistency really that let him down.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we mentioned before in the build-up for the reverse grids, build-up for race 1 even. Reverse grids is where you win the championship. And unfortunately for Edmondson, he's been caught up in one too many incidents, hasn't he? And hasn't quite taken advantage of everybody else's. Elliot Dalton-Ayres gets through on Kenny Press, who is bleeding positions. I mean, he enjoyed a good 10 minutes or so on the top 2 steps of the podium. But unfortunately, he'll probably be the first to admit he's not quite got the pace as soon as everybody else calms themselves down and actually gets into a little bit of clean air. So that's a bit of a shame for Kenny, but you never know, he might still hold on to the top 10 because the drivers behind him, Max Bird and Joel Lask, seem to be pretty set on hitting 12 bells out of each other, aren't they? So you never know, that could end up obviously falling apart for those drivers as well. Josh Martin going for a second podium position of the evening. He's got Carl Felvers up ahead of him, who has, I think, quite significantly, you could say, had a bit of an improvement on these front-wheel drive machines, haven't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Both these drivers actually getting really, really quick as the season goes on. Josh Martin, for me, has been the driver of the night so far. He's up the inside of Felvers at the chicane. They make a little bit of contact. Felvers was always going to pay him back on the exit of the corner, and I don't think Josh can really complain too much about that. He's still got the inside line for Redgate corner, actually. Don't go cross on him, that was a bit unnecessary, and Carl Felvers flashing his lights there almost as a warning that he was still there alongside Josh Martin, who has the inside line at Redgate and should be able to squeeze through. Eric Axelsen closing in on this group as well. But yeah, brilliant night this for Josh Martin. A second place could still be in the offing here, and that would make it a really, really strong end to the season for him. Hangs on to third place for the time being, but Reece Bell is only 1.3 seconds further up the road.
Yeah, a double podium, though. It'd mean we see both shoeies, wouldn't it? Both shoes would be off of his mate. Be looking forward to seeing that video, I'm sure. Felvers, though, isn't going to let this die. And right on cue, he dives at the inside at McLean's. He's not going to get the move done. But again, very interesting to see how aggressive he's being, especially with Eric Axelsen just behind him. A little bit of a flash in and out of existence there by Kyle. That shows that maybe he's having a touch of internet issues, and we've already seen one driver potentially come undone by internet issues already. Just having a look at seeing how Eric Axelsen and Josh Martin, they are tied on points. So Axelsen at the moment currently in 5th, Josh Martin in 3rd place. Martin will get that 6th position, won't he? So not a prize, but still pride to be won.
Well, I'm in the process of working that out, but I actually reckon that Josh at the moment is only 4 points behind Joel Lask. So if he can gain some more ground and Lask loses some, that could all change as well. That would be for 5th in the championship. That was for 5th in the race. Scott Bugner up the inside of Eric Axels with a very aggressive move, which somehow pays off. And Bugner moves into P5. But yeah, if Josh Martin can go up there and challenge for 2nd place, and then if Lask were to lose a place as well, which could well happen still, he's only 1.2 seconds, bear in mind, ahead of Max Bird, then Josh Martin could yet sneak into the top 5 in the points. It's been a brilliant night this. What he doesn't need is Felvers applying the pressure to him as they go up the hill, but he can't shake Kyle off, and that for the time being is just affecting his ability to go after Bell in 2nd place.
Yeah, Reece Bell driving very well. They're one of the few drivers on the grid that has absolutely zero ballast on board, of course. But unlike the other two, i.e. Laramie, Jones, Laramie, Jones and Hughes, he's actually managed to hold on to his reverse grid positions there or thereabouts. So Reece absolutely flying. I know he's getting a lot of love in the YouTube chat as well. Actually, quite a few people hoping that Josh Martin holds everybody up, because so Reece Bell does actually get that 2nd place. Sorry. With 4 minutes to go, if Felvers starts, sending one up the inside of Martin, then maybe Reese Bell will hold on to this second place. He's doing a brilliant job so far. Edmondson has driven away with it, and right on cue, Felvis does send one up the inside of Josh Martin. Martin trying to hold that high, wide and handsome line, but he's been sent out to the gravel for good measure as well, unfortunately, on that one. So Felvis pretty much doing to Martin what Martin did to Felvis a couple of laps ago.
Yes, he is. So that's not good news for Josh Martin's hopes of getting this 5th place in the championship. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's the Power Maxed Valeting kit that's up for grabs. But there's also just that little bit of honour that you get, in a way, for finishing inside that top 5, getting one of the prizes. And of course, those Valeting kits are worth quite a bit of cash as well. So yeah, worth going for here for Josh Martin for sure. There is Scott Bugner 5th, Eric Axelson 6th, and Elliot Dalton-Ayres in 7th place. In the background, though, look, something of potential significance is Joel Lask right on the tail of Kenny Press. This is for 8th position, and if he gets this place, would give him an extra point, which gives Lask a bit breathing room over Josh Martin and moves him back 1 point closer to Dalton-Ayres as well in their fight for 4th place in the championship. The gap would come down to 5 instead of 6 points. On the inside goes Lask, and he makes that look very, very easy. Now, 2.5 minutes to go. I'm not sure he's going to catch the group ahead. 8th might be as good as it gets now for Lask, but there's still the potential for others ahead to start changing positions over the final few laps.
Yeah, move up the inside then as well. Felvis goes into second on Reese Bell as Eric Axelson even gets very sideways. I was focusing on my timing tab. I didn't quite see what happened there. Andy, keep a memory of that one so you can let us know if you did see it. But Josh Martin and Felvis now get through on Reese Bell. He won't hold on to that podium position, which is a big shame, but he has had an absolutely brilliant drive up till that point. Now, that could it be significant though, because Bugner, Dalton-Ayres and Axelson, the group behind Reese Bell, they're pretty much throwing everything at each other. If Reese Bell, and he doesn't need to move out the way, there will be no blue flags, he's not a back marker. All of a sudden, that could get a bit of a headache for these 3 drivers. If they're going to try and go through 3 wide at one point, all of a sudden, they might have Reese Bell's back bumper to have to contend with as well. All of a sudden, there's a bit of a headache. Bugner doesn't really need to worry. He's already got a championship, but he wants to help his teammate as best as possible.
Yeah, and Dalton-Ayres will certainly want to move through if he can. Reese Bell, by the way, 3 times this season he's finished in 10th position. They are his 3 best results of the season. So if he can hang on to this 4th place, that really would be an excellent way to finish off his championship campaign. It might even be enough to get him into the top 10 in points. He was 11th in points coming into tonight's races in that leopard print car, which runs in 4th place. It is being caught by the cars behind, but the cars behind are battling again. Up the inside goes Dalton-Ayres. Oh, and Axelson into the side of Bugner into Redgate. That was a really odd incident there. Axelson almost looked like he wasn't sure where Bugner was, but anyway, both of them get past Bugner in the end. Dalton-Ayres to 5th, Axelson 6th, and Scott Bugner probably won't be too happy with that. Now he's looking to the inside. Remember, Bugner, the only way he could possibly start losing the championship now is if he were to start being given penalties. He can't afford penalties, so needs to make sure here that he doesn't get drawn into a daft move. There goes Josh Martin, who really has very little to lose. He may as well go for this. 2nd place from Carl Felvis would be really, really handy if he is to have any chance of getting this 5th place in the championship, as we've got just under a lap and a half of the season to go.
Yeah, we do indeed, which is a bit of a shame, really. But of course, we do have the touring cars up next in a couple of weeks' time, so it is time to get excited for that. But we'll hold off from any further talk of that for the time being, as Kenny Press goes off the track and gifts an awful lot of praises to an awful lot of drivers, unfortunately. This is Max Edmondson, though. Will he take the checkered flag this time round? I think he might be. Max Edmondson then takes the victory at the Donington Park for I believe, round 12, isn't it, of course? Keeps locking the brakes to as Carl Felvis gets on the podium along with Josh Martin.
Yeah, so Martin couldn't quite get that 2nd place at the end. Yeah, I think Edmondson perhaps backed off on that last lap to make sure it was the final lap. And that was sensible, really. Why do any more lapping than you need to? A bit of a last corner moment there for Kenny Press means that John Jones will move ahead of him. That's a 4th place in the race. And that was a dramatic way to round out the championship. But Max Edmondson has managed to get the race victory. That is Max's 4th of the season and his 1st win in a reversed grid race. All of his other race wins came from pole position in race 1. So that was really, really strong end to the season for him, actually. It's a shame he had the disappointment in the middle part of the season, the 6 round championship. but Max Edmondson really ending things on a high. He will not be the champion though. Scott Bugner provisionally is your VRRC Civic Cup champion, and a deserving one as well.
Absolutely, yeah, he's driven brilliantly, and really that final race summed it up, didn't he? He kept it out of trouble. He scored what he needed to score, which was nothing, but he scored much more than that. It's a fantastic drive by Bugner, but also a good drive by Edmondson as well, who's locking the rear tyres with his handbrake as he drives down the exhibition straight. Hopefully we'll have a chat to a few of these drivers, Andy. In fact, I can already see they're starting to bleed into our commentary box.
They are indeed. So why don't we talk to the winningest driver in the Civic Cup, Max Edmondson, who is 4 times a race winner. But Max, we were just saying that's your first reversed grid race win. And as much as it's nice to win race 1 from pole position and prove that you really are the fastest driver that week, those reverse grid races, when you do come out on top of them, I'm sure are even more fun.
Yeah, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was the most fun race I've ever had, but it was easy enough, so I'm pretty happy that I wasn't in any of the carnage. I don't think I was anyway, so I'm pretty happy.
No, you moved your way through the fields really excellently, and those reverse grid races really were where they kind of proved to be your downfall in the early part of the season, so nice to see you coming out well in that one. We also think that that should now be enough for you to hang on to second place in the championship, which was of course your main target in that, and really it was the progress that you made early on, because you came carving your way through, and Max Bird got sort of caught up in some of the midfield battles. That really is what wrapped up P2 for you.
Yeah. I mean, at the start of this championship, I gave myself 2 challenges, and one was to get a driver of the round, and one was to win the championship, and I haven't managed to do any of them so far, so hopefully this round I can get driver of the round.
Right, well, I think that discussion is ongoing. I actually forgot that you hadn't been given the driver of the round before. That's a very good point. Anyway, congratulations on the race win. Stick around, see if you get that extra prize, but a brilliant season it's been for you, and I'm sure you've had people out there cheering you on, watching on. Anyone you want to say hello to?
My mum and dad and everyone else who they've told to watch. I don't really know, to be fair. Yeah, them 2 mainly.
Right, okay, well, I'm sure you've got plenty of fans watching on at home, and we're very happy to see you get that 4th win of the season. Congratulations to Max Edmondson, though. Second place in the race was Carl Felvis, and he is with Jack now.
Apologies about that. Yeah, Kyle, well, you've been saying all along that you don't like front-wheel drive. I don't think we were going to allow you to say that anymore, because that was a bit of a turnaround here at Donington Park this evening.
It's just Donington. Donington is my favourite track on any calendar we've done. Yeah, I just love Donny. But the car felt good round here, I have to admit.
Well, looking a little bit further forward. Well, actually, no, we won't look further forward for the time being, as my watering can falls over the background. Apologies if you heard that.
Josh Martin at the end then was absolutely epic between the 2 of you. Were you sort of safe in the knowledge that you thought, you know what, I can trust Josh, we can have a right good race?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Josh race. Not had many battles with him, but I've seen him race other people, so I know it was good, and it was nice, clean racing. We just he gave me a hip check, I gave him a hip check. It was just clean racing all round, to be honest.
Well, fantastic. Apologies, I think my mic has just disconnected. So, Andy, why don't you take over while I reconnect?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, let's Carl Felvis then. Yeah, second place. I mean, front-wheel drive hasn't really been your biggest strength, it must be said. But looking ahead, and I think this is where Jack was going with this, we've got this new touring car series coming up in the near future. We're sort of counting on seeing you out there because we enjoy watching you race. Do you think you've learned anything over the course of the season that might help you now moving forward into other front-wheel drive series?
I mean, I've done many here at VRRC. I think I just didn't gel with this car, to be honest, but I can't wait to get out on track for this new World Tour series. I've driven that Cupra before, but we've got new tyres and stuff, so it's all looking really good.
Absolutely, we're all really looking forward to it, and glad to hear that we're going to see you out on track as well. Carl, congratulations, really strong end to the season there, and yeah, look forward to seeing you out in our next championship.
Thank you, Andy.
Carl Felvis then, second place finish for him. Now, third place in the race, and with another really cracking drive there, was Josh Martin. Josh, well done on third position there. The reverse grid races, always a bit of a challenge, and my word, you did not have it easy in that one, did you?
No, I think the reverse grid race is always where I do a bit better, but I was in the thick of it the whole way through. I don't think I had a single clear lap. The 20 minutes went a lot quicker than the first 20 minutes, but yeah, it was really good fun. couldn't quite get Kyle at the end. Like you said, nice and clean. We both went round race. I made some really good overtakes coming up through the pack. But yeah, I really enjoyed that.
And a really strong end to your championship, really. I mean, you had those couple of podiums previously, but had it not been really for a slightly disappointing Alton Park and Silverstone, you'd have been right up there in the top 5 in points. We just had the final point standings through, and you're 6th in the championship, only 5 points off top 5. You've got to be quite pleased with that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame because I was hindered with my internet dropping in and out. I've had also any tech problem I think I could have had. I think I've had this season. It took until Croft to get it all, get them all ironed out. So hopefully for the next championship, I'm probably going to do it. So hopefully I have no issues. But no, if it wouldn't have been for those problems, I'd have been right there because I had that DNF at Alton where I think I was running in around 10th when the internet dropped out. So I lost a big chunk of points there, but no, overall I enjoyed it. In the last 2 rounds, I think went really well.
Yeah, certainly. You've been right on the pace over the last couple of weeks, which has been really nice to see. It's also been decided, I believe, you might have to fight Max Edmondson for this, but I think it's been decided that you're the recipient of the driver of the round here. Mainly, I think, because everyone forgot that Max hadn't already won it. So apologies, Max. But Josh, because of your brilliant driving in race 1 to get a podium, and again there in race 2, coming so close to that top 5 prize-giving position, the Power Max Valeting kit will be making its way towards you as our final driver of the round of the season. So congratulations.
Ah, brilliant! It's quite nice to get a driver of the day. I'm always right there, but I never really even got it in real life. I'm always right there, always like second choice. So I'll take that.
Well, you're our first choice here tonight, and you can discuss with Max Edmondson whether you share that Valeting kit afterwards. If we could give it to both of you, we would, but that's not an option, unfortunately. Well done, though, Josh, for the brilliant driving and keeping us thoroughly entertained tonight.
Cheers, thank you very much.
And with that, Max Edmondson leaves the chat. Josh Martin, thank you very much. There we go, our final podium interviews of the season. I guess that there is just one more person to have a chat with. And Jack, why don't we have our second word of the night with our champion?
Scott Bugner, champion. You must be, I mean, that must feel pretty good to hear.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I've done a few seasons for VRRC and I've always been sort of there, but just a few tenths off the pace here and there, and it's just sort of hindered me a little bit. And then I had a season off, and it took me a little while to get used to them Porsches, but front wheel drive I'm a bit more comfortable in.
Well, we'll get on to the next championship in a minute or two, but let's talk about that second race to start with, and potentially the first race, because we didn't have that much time to have a chat with you after the first one. In the first one, you said that there was an opportunity potentially just to sit in second place, sit in third place, see how it evolved around you, but you absolutely gung-ho went for it, didn't you? Was that sort of a conscious decision, like leading up into the corner, or was that a bit of a snap judgment as soon as you hit the brakes? You know what, I could die for this, man.
Bit of both. Obviously me and Max have done quite a bit of practice, and I've just noticed that he brakes a little bit earlier than me into the first corner, so I thought if I can get close enough, I'll give it a go, as long as there's no, like, big contact. And yeah, I just thought, well, I'm close enough now, and if it slows us down, it means he can then get put under pressure from, I think it was Max Bird in third. So I went for it, and obviously it worked, and then all the carnage kicked off behind me.
Going into race 2, little chat about that one, because you said going into race 2 you wanted to help Joel Lask out a little bit here, there and everywhere. It didn't look like you two were teammates for parts of that, because you were lunging each other left, right and centre, especially into the final chicane. How did the conversation go in Discord on that one?
The thing is, he went up the inside of me, and I left him so much room, and it was sort of like I didn't know if he was backing off to like give me a bit more of a better run, and then would go again, and then I just sort of stayed wide, and then he was alongside me into the chicane, and the next minute his car just come steaming up the inside. It's fine, I don't mind, but yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun.
I was going to say, Joel didn't look like he was taking any feces, put it that way, in that last race. He was full pedal to the metal on that one, and it gave us a lot of action to watch, I have to say. Looking into the next season, then obviously Scott, champion of the Civics, you'll be the reigning champion, jumping into a touring car with the hybrid system, with all those extra sort of gizmos in terms of different tyres, different length races. What's your plan for that one?
Put the target on my back, and I think have number 1 on the car will be a start. I think I'll take that off Nicky Taylor now. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really read a lot into it. I will do it. It'll be interesting. Obviously, the new style touring cars this year is quite interesting with the battery power and stuff. So yeah, I think it'll be quite interesting. It'll be all about looking after the tyres, but also not being, too aggressive at the start and using all your batteries. So I think it'll be quite good.
Plenty of tactics, that's for sure. He'll take some practice, I'm sure, as well. Scott, congratulations on the championship. Go and enjoy that for the rest of the evening, because Lord knows you deserve it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the commentary.
No, thank you, Scott. Been an absolute pleasure watching you all season, and I echo Jack's thoughts. A really well-deserved championship for Scott. Right, we've been joined by a familiar voice to many of you regular VRRC viewers. Indeed, he joined me in the commentary box for a round earlier on this season. Dave Marshall, welcome back to the booth. That was a brilliant way to round out what has been a brilliant season, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wish real life was sometimes as nice as that. That was some of the best racing I think I've watched, actually. I mean, a constant train, a brilliant drive by Scott, all championship really, and some absolutely fantastic driving standards there, and also really nice to see the likes of Reece Bell really sort of learning throughout the championship. And I mean, if he thought he might have been on a podium at the start of the championship, he'd have probably taken it. And what a fantastic drive that was.
Yeah, actually, he's not the only one who has caught my eye over the second half of the season. I feel like we saw, and we always get this in these VRRC championships to an extent, drivers who start off maybe a little bit weaker, then learn the car and get better. But we really seem to have seen that as this season's gone on. Lots of drivers who struggled at the start, people like Kyle Felvers, Josh Martin, another example, Andy Carroll, Andy Dorman, who have suddenly at the end proven themselves to be, consistent front runners. We're seeing here the final points tally. We'll get back to that in a moment. Then Scott Bugner provisionally is the champion. Max Edmondson gets the second place by 11 points in the end over Max Bird in third, and then Elliot Dalton-Ayres fourth, Joel Lask in fifth. 5 points, all that prevented Josh Martin from moving into a prize-giving position. But yeah, Dave, a lot of those drivers that you can see at the back end of the top 10 at the start of the season were nowhere near the top 10. So it's been really interesting to see that rate of improvement as the season's gone on.
Yeah, definitely. And what one name to pull out the bag there straight away, Andy Carroll, I believe it was, putting a P6 in qualifying, and there was 4 drivers within a tenth, and he was right in that. So yeah, there's definitely, I think it's fair to say, more drivers to look forward to going into the next championship. I think driving is going to be a lot closer, especially in qualifying, probably making it more important as well. So this whole hybrid with the push, the boost to get past other people, it's going to bring that whole different side of strategy into the racing. And actually, gotta admit, I think it's going to be actually really quite complex of what's the best strategy to use during races.
I think it will be the smarter drivers, or the more thinking drivers who come out the best in that. The ones that can take a step back in the heat of the moment and really think about the bigger picture and think about, where to use that hybrid, how to manage your tyres in those longer 40-minute races. That's going to be really interesting as well. And nice to have those 40-minute races in there too, not just the 15-minute sprint races, but a couple of races which are longer than the drivers are used to. And again, I think that will throw something really interesting into the mix.
Yeah, definitely. So a little point from the race that we've just watched. Max Bird race 1. He said he was struggling with pace a little bit there. The front tyres were going off, and really had to try and park the bus to stop people trying to get past. The problem being, in the hybrid car, you can do everything you can to try and defend through the corners, but going on the next straight, he'll be a sitting duck if he doesn't also use that hybrid. Therefore, using up it, and then not having it later on in that race. So it's sort of going to allow them drivers that maybe has a bit more right pace, or the ones who maybe look after them tyres a little bit better, the chance to actually pass them drivers who can maybe actually defend slightly better. So yeah, I think it's going to actually blow the next championship really wide open and leave it where multiple drivers have a really good strong chance of finishing well.
No, I think I agree with you there. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting series, much as the VRRC Civic Cup has been. And the final championship standings there we're seeing on the screen, documenting how the drivers got on right at the very end of the season, and those top 5 who all managed to get themselves into the prize-giving positions, which we've been talking about so much over the course of the night. They're all going to be really, really happy. And Jack, these are the prizes that they've managed to win, and Scott Bugner gets himself that 34-inch AGON curved gaming display.
Yeah, hopefully everybody got what they wanted as well, because sometimes that is the case. If you've already got a gaming monitor, sometimes you really want the rig, don't you? Which obviously is the second prize. But hopefully Scott and everybody else is enjoying their prize, and obviously those I think Max Bird coming in 3rd place with 2 tickets to the TCR UK Championship. If Donington was anything to go by, he's in for a right treat, isn't he, Andy? And obviously you might catch a glimpse of you in the commentary box as well. You never know. It's been a fantastic championship. It's been an absolute honour to commentate on it. Hopefully it's been an honour to be racing in as well. And I think only one more rough thing to do, which is tell you all about the different things that are going on in VRRC as a whole, in the VRRC multiverse, really. So there we go. There's the graphic. Forza Horizon 5 up there in there on the right-hand side. That's, of course, jump in the Discord, just have a casual chat about Forza and everything that's going on with casual sim racing. If you want to jump into our Assetto Corsa competitions, well, the championships, the time attack, the fun races that are getting involved every Saturday night for pretty much anyone as well, by the way. So if you're watching this one and you're thinking, you know what, I like the sound of that touring cars, well, jump over, but you've never been a part of VRRC, you don't know how the setup works, you don't know how to install mods on a Assetto Corsa or anything like that, well, jump in one of our fun races, because you'll get all the assistance, and it's for free, it's for nothing. You can just jump on, sign up, and get going, basically. If you're into Assetto Corsa Competizione, more style like endurance championships, then we do endurance races weekly, and Dirt Rally 2.0, of course, the Monday to Sunday weekly stages, and Rallycross, so plenty to look forward to. But probably the one we're most looking forward to is one we've mentioned quite a bit tonight, which is, of course, Andy, the next championship.
It is, absolutely, yes. Lots going on the VRRC, but this is the headline news, really. It all begins on the 29th of June, and we'll run weekly on Wednesday night, so exactly the same format as you're used to with our Civic Cup and the previous couple of series, with the broadcast beginning at just before 7:30 UK time, and we visit some of the great racetracks across Europe. The Barcelona circuit in Spain, Paul Ricard in France, Monza is where we'll have our first 40-minute race before we head to Austria and the Red Bull Ring, Germany and Hockenheim, then the second of our endurance races at Spa before Zandvoort in Holland, and Silverstone in the UK, fittingly, will host the championship decider. As Jack said, head to the VRRC social media links. You can see them all there at the bottom of the screen, and the Discord channel for all of the information on how to watch, but more importantly, how to enter. We would love to see you out there on the track and getting your name and perhaps your voice on our broadcasts if you're up there on the podium. It would be fantastic to see a big grid of these hybrid touring cars doing battle around some of Europe's best championships. And you've got a couple of weeks before it all kicks off as well, so time to get your entry and get a bit of practice in ahead of the start of the season. And we look forward to seeing plenty of you there. For now, though, that is it, I think, from the team here at VRRC. Jack, a wonderful championship we've had. Your final thoughts on what we've seen over the last 6 weeks?
A deserved champion in Scott Bugner, a deserved battle right to the wire for second, for fourth, with all those different drivers that we've seen. Alton and Brands Hatch were sensational. Croft was a bit of a, as I said, put a pin on it and move on. But yeah, hopefully everybody who's jumped in for this particular championship will be joining us next time, because they made it brilliant.
Certainly did, as did the whole team here at the VRRC. A huge thanks to Jack for his wonderful co-commentary, also to Tom O'Farrell, who's been giving us these beautiful pictures and doing his very best to show us everything happening on the track, which at times was something of an impossible task. To Dave Marshall as well for all of his help, even stepping into the commentary box for a night, and of course to Rich Hayden and the whole VRRC team for putting the whole thing together. Finally, thank you to all of you who have tuned in to watch, be you supporting drivers or just here for the entertainment. We really appreciate you coming along to support the racing here on the VRRC, and we hope to see you again in a few weeks when our European Touring Car Championship, Hybrid Touring Car Championship, gets underway. For now, though, from everyone here at the VRRC, that's all we've got time for. The VRRC Civic Cup has been an absolute thrill, and we'll be back in a few weeks to do it all over again.